Welcome, my peeps, my peoples. Please like, comment, subscribe, share the video. It'd be greatly appreciated. It's Mary Jane, and we're going to be talking about Bobbi Brown's story part 2 on BET. Absolutely excellent. And we got to see Raina from Power, portraying Bobbi Kristina. She actually did a wonderful, excellent job. All the actors did an excellent job. This was very well produced. And also, I like to say, with the Bobbi Brown situation, with him getting off drugs and going to prison and detoxing and going through the shakes and stuff like that, yes, he was clean and all that other good stuff. But when he did that video with Ja Rule, he was back on drugs. He was heavily on drugs. He was tweaking. And You Need My Love and You Need My Thuggin' with Ja Rule, he was definitely on drugs, for sure, for sure. And, he ended up developing a substance abuse problem too as well. They also portrayed Alicia, Bobbi Brown's wife, as being an angel and God sent, and she probably was an angel and God sent too as well to Bobbi Brown, and having 4 kids with him and helping him stay on the straight and narrow path, and also knowing that it also was a benefit for her too as well. Money opportunity to right now. She produced the Bobbi Brown story, and it made her seem like an angel. But a lot of people believe that Alicia was, very jealous of Whitney Houston too as well. And also people believe at Bobbi Brown's mother's funeral that Whitney Houston had some words for her. And we know Whitney Houston was like, that's my mother-in-law. That's my mother-in-law. She came there with class, style, and grace, and she sung her ass off. And you'll see some of the clips that are in the slideshow, but you actually can check out Whitney Houston on YouTube actually singing at Bobbi Brown's mother's funeral. I wonder if she sung at the father's funeral, but it was nice to see that she came there because she did love Bobbi Brown's family, and Bobbi Brown family loved her too as well. And she loved Bobbi Brown kids, because you could see in her reality TV show, the kids were always around. And Bobby always had his kids in the picture, even if he was, doped up, coked up, drunk up. He did have his kids in the picture. And Whitney Houston loved Bobbi Kristina, but it's the drugs. The drugs was just way too much for them. And I also have a question. When, in part of the episode, you see Bobbi Brown meets up with Whitney Houston and Bobbi Kristina. And Bobbi Kristina grabs a cigarette and she's smoking cigarettes, and it was allowed by Whitney Houston. But we also know most parents that smoke have 50% chance that their children might smoke too as well, because it's secondhand smoking. They grew up in a house with smokers. But did Whitney Houston and Bobbi Kristina get high together? And did Whitney Houston, Bobbi Kristina, and Nick Gordon get high together? Bobbi Brown also feels like, Nick Gordon has something to do with Whitney Houston's death and also Bobbi Kristina's death. And it seems like when Bobbi and Whitney Houston split up, it seems like his relationship was cut off by Whitney Houston. This is what the movie portrays. I don't know that's actually factual, but we see Whitney Houston didn't play no games. She was gangster. She was from Newark, and she said nobody can control her and tell her what to do. I don't know if you guys got it or get it. And then we in the slideshow, you're also going to see videos of Whitney Houston doing interview with Oprah Winfrey, Barbara Walters, and somebody else is in the slideshow. You could see how like her look deteriorated. One moment she looked like this, next moment she looked like that. But and Bobbi Kristina also being in an interview too as well and saying crack is whack, and Whitney Houston was very conscious of what people thought about her too as well. So was Bobbi Brown. And Bobbi Brown felt like his career ended once he got with Whitney Houston, because the handlers that be in Hollywood did not want Whitney Houston to be with Bobbi Brown. They wanted her to have that princess image, that grace image, and to be with someone of her stature and not someone like Bobbi Brown. I don't know if they probably did know how deep her cocaine use went, but he felt like being with her that people started to hate him. And that's very true, because people thought that Bobbi Brown was bringing Whitney Houston down. But if you could see in the movie, if it's actually true, she was down with it. Bobbi Brown hit the floor, fainted, she grabbed the coke and got high and told the maids to clean up the mess and kept going and getting high. So it seems like she didn't play no games too as well. And Whitney Houston felt like her career ended when she got with Bobbi Brown, because people hated her and people didn't love her anymore because she was with Bobbi Brown. And Bobbi Brown was like, people don't love you, they just love the way you sang. And that shit hit home. And doing the reality TV show really kind of let people see that Whitney and Bobbi Brown was on drugs heavily. and it was really a bad idea to do. It was actually good TV and the ratings was up, but it looked really bad for a superstar like Whitney Houston with a decade of hits, decade of singing, and being graced with all the people in her family that are actually artists, musicians, and singers looked pretty bad. And then just her behaviors, and the tabloids went in on her and talked about her terribly, and she blamed Bobby Brown for getting her into this reality TV show, which was introduced by Tommy, which is, Bobby Brown's brother, and he was actually on a reality TV show as well. You'll see him in the slideshow too. I think someone should have knew it was a bad idea, especially given all the cigarettes that Whitney Houston smoked, and she was supposed to be a singer. Smoking destroy your lungs and your vocal cords too as well, and the alcohol and the tantrums that they both went on and fighting. Whitney Houston looking unhealthy. It was just bad for business. But you got to see Bobbi Kristina being happy too as well. And it's just like, damn, Bobbi Kristina didn't have a chance. Her parents had millions, had everything, and they couldn't protect her or keep her safe or keep her away from drugs. She didn't have anybody there to protect her. Bobby Brown's other kids had their mothers, had his family and their family to protect them from what was going on in Bobby Brown's life. But Bobbi Kristina didn't have anybody there because, in the last, the first story of Bobby Brown's story on BET, Mekhi Phifer, a.k.a. Tommy, was saying that they stayed in the house for months. Whitney would stay in the house for months, and the drug dealers would come by and drop off keys or, ounces of drugs in the mailbox, and they was just locked off. And it's just like Bobby Brown's career really ended when he married Whitney Houston. It's just like the drugs. And I know Whitney Houston was able to buy all the drugs that she needed. They spent millions on drugs. And he was there, so he had unlimited access of drugs. His wife is doing drugs. They can stay in a cocoon in their house. But I don't believe that was when he met Whitney Houston was the first time he did drugs, because I know of two people that told me they got high with Bobby Brown once. And these people are not my age. They're much older than me. And it just, one co-worker and another co-worker told me that, two different jobs. So, and it just came a topic of conversation. And I don't see the reason for them lying or thinking it was cool, because, nobody really brags about doing drugs. And these were older women with children, families, and husbands. But at one point in time, they was out there dropping it like it was hot. So, it's very interesting. The movie is very interesting. A lot of people say that Alicia was very jealous of Whitney Houston, and also that she might have been involved in a relationship with Bobby Brown when he first married Whitney Houston, when she was introduced at Telly, when he was in the studio with Teddy Riley. So it's what you guys think or whatever. A lot of people believe that, it's a conspiracy with Whitney Houston and Bobbi Kristina death being in a bathtub, being like the gateway, like a sacrifice too as well. Bobby Brown blames, Nick Gordon for the incident, but it was just really crazy. But the reenactment of things that was going on, especially in the reality TV show, the funeral, it was all good. So let's get started on. So it's just like Bobby Brown went down, like, he was just doing coke like it was nobody's business. He was on a tour bus. He was reuniting with New Edition. He just got messed up on the bus. He was doing coke. He was doing alcohol. He was smoking weed. Whitney Houston was sitting there watching it. Everybody was just there chilling. He was getting tore from the flow up. And then he started to get paranoid and thought Whitney Houston was trying to kill him. And he runs off in the field. This is in Texas, when it's, I think, Texas or Florida, where you stand your ground law. A white dude came out of his house with a shotgun ready to kill them all. But he noticed Whitney Houston and he held back from shooting them because they could have been killed. And it seems like the drug situation was really bad. Like it was awful. That's why it just surprised me that, she overdosed, and they said that she had a heart attack. Then they said she didn't have a heart attack. So, Bobbi Brown's in the house cooking up crack, making crack, got cocaine, and that was their breakfast. And Whitney Houston's in the room screaming for her drugs. Bobbi Brown was bringing the drugs, and he ended up falling, slipping, hitting the floor, having a stroke, glass broken all over the place. Whitney Houston come out the bedroom doing the moonwalk and thinking it's a joke. She gets the drugs from Bobbi Brown. She puts her 2 fingers in front of his nose. He's breathing, and she goes back in the room and get high and tell the mates to clean up the broken glass. The next thing you know, Bobbi Brown's in the hospital. He done had a stroke, but his limbs are still working. And that's when Whitney Houston promised to, get clean. Let's do this for ourselves. Let's do this for Bobbi Kristina. Bobbi Brown wakes up and hears that, and he wants to get clean, and he wants to stay clean. And so I guess for a moment in a time, they were clean. And then they went to Barbados, or they went to Jamaica. And, the tabloids were filming them. They were coming back. And the customs, the police, they arrested Bobbi Brown on a bench warrant, which didn't make any sense. If he had violated probation for a DUI years ago, and now the tabloids got them coming back into the U.S. and the customs arrested him, it was the hands that be. And now he's being locked up in jail, and he actually gets clean, and that was actually wonderful. And he detoxed, and he stayed strong. And then soon he gets out. Whitney Houston picks him up in a limo. They making out, kissing. She got her man. People talking about free Bobbi Brown. And then right after that situation, Whitney Houston shows him the cocaine. She's like, this is the only thing that got me through. I was alone. And also that phone call that Whitney Houston had with Bobbi Brown in jail, it seems like she was paranoid, that she needed Bobbi Brown. Like, that's the only way that she thought that she could make it. And, the drugs was one thing, but she was so attached to Bobbi, and she loved Bobbi. And he knew what she was going through with the drugs and stuff like that, but he stayed strong. But Whitney Houston ended up getting back on drugs and was on drugs the whole time, and she didn't quit, and she wasn't trying to quit, it seems like. And so it was just it was a crying shame. Like, you got 2 of the most phenomenal people to brace this earth with their talents, their gifts, their knowledge, and their wisdom, and their being very charismatic, just get addicted to drugs and throw everything away. It's like, damn, I wish there was some time and point that they could have cared about their self and cared about Bobbi Kristina so much. But when you under drug influence and drug addiction, nothing matters. Nothing really matters, because they just let everything go. But Whitney Houston, she had a career, and she could do anything to get money. She had royalties. And then Bobbi Brown signing over $25 million of his money, and they spent all that $25 million. Bobbi Brown talked about, just buying a car, a Porsche or a Benz, and just to rush to a plane and leave it right there. Just blew money, spend money like it was nobody's business. It's just like, they gave kids millions of dollars and they have fun. It's just like being able to do all the drugs that you want with no consequences. You can just stay in your mansion, bills are paid, everything's taken care of. You don't got to worry about a paycheck coming in. You don't got to worry about thinking you can afford the drugs because you got them. And it was just really crazy. I mean, it was crazy. Like, you wouldn't believe. I was just like, whoa. And you actually see, Bobbi Brown tried to stay clean. He really did try to stay clean. And then he started to perform again because, he ended up hooking back up with Tommy, his brother, and asked him to be his manager again, get him the deals again, especially with Murder, Inc. and the New Edition reunion situation. But we know at that time Bobbi was high when, I believe that was 99 or 2000. I think this song was recorded in 99, I guess released in 2002 or something like that. That song was the shit. I used to dance to that song like it was my thug and my love, and that was my shit. But we all knew Bobbi was high in that video. Go on YouTube and look at it. When I looked at the clips, I was just like, I been knew that, but I listened to the whole song, you know what I mean, after I got my clips. And so he was high then, so he wasn't totally honest in this movie about his drug use. At the end, he made it seem like once he got out of jail, he was totally clean and he only was addicted to alcohol. Wasn't true. So we have that situation. Then we have Whitney Houston doing her interviews with all these, the big press, the big media at the time. Now the big press and the big media is everybody, all the blogs. And so doing these interviews, Bobby Brown joined. He didn't like the interviews. He thought it was a bad look. Whitney Houston saying crack is whack. He wasn't prepared for it and all this other stuff. But, she was like, I look good. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn what they say. I look good. I do what I'm supposed to do. I knew what to say. I know how to act. I know how to perform. I've been doing this for centuries, baby. I've been doing this for a decade. I don't know what you're talking about, Bobby. No one told you to sit your ass there down on the couch next to me if you wasn't ready. Whitney was a goddamn trip. So moving on from that situation, then now you got Bobby Brown. He's in the house. He's getting tore up from the floor up from the alcohol. Tommy's outside blowing the horn because Bobby got shows. Bobby got gigs. He needs to leave. Whitney Houston is trying to rush Bobby Brown out the house and get him off the premises, kissing him, hugging him, guiding him toward the door to get his suitcase. He's drunk. Tommy went through a lot of bullshit. Tommy put up with a lot. And get him inside the house. And then Whitney Houston got a dude in the house. The dude looked like Ray J. So was that Ray J that was in Whitney's house while Bobby was there? And Bobby was hurt. He was hurt, but Bobby cheated too. They both cheated. Whitney Houston had robbed him for a long time, allegedly. So now Bobby Brown goes back in the house. He sees this dude. He was like, oh, no, you can't be somebody she's messing with. You just a dealer. He was both. Ray J was dealing and hitting it at the same time, allegedly. And so, Bobby Brown allegedly beat the shit out of, Ray J. Bobby Brown's from Boston. He's from the hood. Ray J's from the South, though. But, and this is Bobby Brown's side of the story and his wife's side of the story. But Bobby Brown alleged that he beat the shit out of Ray J and he pushed his hand back. I remember with this happening, Whitney Houston hitting the floor. He gets locked up. He goes to jail. Whitney Houston's not pressing charges towards Bobby, but he's in there. And this is when Tommy comes through to visit him in jail saying, your image is bad. You're not even known for your music anymore. Only thing that you're known for is getting arrested and going to jail. And he kept going to jail. Like Bobby Brown would be driving, with without a license, registration, or insurance. The cops pulled him over and arrested him. But in all likelihood, usually the cops tow the car and they'll let you go. But it seems like there was a vendetta against Bobby Brown. And then on top of that, he got into the big car crash and it was a DUI too as well. And he was arrested. Then he stayed away. He was always back and forth. And that hurted Bobby Kristina, especially then when he finally left, Whitney Houston. That hurt too. Hurt Bobby Kristina too as well. And then whatever Whitney Houston was feeding Bobby Kristina at the time, that's what she went with, because she was with the parent that stuck with her the most, that was always present. And that was her mother, Whitney Houston, of course. So now Bobby Brown didn't want to do the reality TV show, but he ended up doing it. He said it's for washed up people. That's when, Tommy was like, nah, Ron DNC, Ron, he's doing a TV show. He's doing a reality TV show. You got Puff Daddy, Ron's family. You had Making a Band with P. Diddy. So the reality TV show was coming out. And then now you got Bobby Brown and Whitney Houston. And that shit was lit. So, and then in the reality TV show, when she's at the mall shopping, you got the person that owns one of the biggest name brand come down and hug and greet Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston had hundreds and hundreds of people just following her around the mall. Like, she was a star. She was a legend, man. It's just that if she just only had the gumption and the willpower to stop using drugs, but it didn't happen. So, and she loved Bobby Kristina, but that wasn't enough to cure her. And she's seen what happened to Bobby having a stroke and everything. Wasn't enough to make her stop using. So we have that situation. And so Bobby getting arrested, and then they do the reality TV show and it goes wrong. It goes bad. It's like almost like a career ender for Whitney Houston, and all the tabloids and everything have all these negative things to say. It's just too much. And she said that the tabloids didn't write that negative about her ever. And she blames Bobby Brown for the reality TV show, but they both was under influence. So it would have been easy. Whitney Houston didn't need the money. It was actually to vamp Bobby's career back and change his image, because Whitney Houston already had the money and the fame. It didn't even matter. But she was doing this for her husband, and she wanted to help him. She always wanted to help him. Every time you turn around, when they went to the Soul Train Awards, when they went to any awards, Whitney Houston would introduce Bobby Brown as the king of soul, king of pop, and she always had him right next to her. She wanted him there. He wanted to be there too. But I think he was jealous of her success too as well, because he could never climb that mountain. And maybe he blamed her because he really got heavily addicted to drugs. And he had a stream of money, an unlimited access to drugs. But he has taken blame for his situation too as well. So we have that situation going on. I mean, like, damn, it was just all messed up. And then that's when Whitney Houston said that, hey, listen, it's your fault. That's when Bobbi Brown said, it's your fault. People love me. She said, people love me too. Since I got with you, this happened. Because the handlers did not want Bobbi Brown and Whitney Houston together. This has been known. This has just been out there. Whitney Houston family didn't want her with Bobbi Brown as well. And just the way the family did Bobbi Brown was totally terrible. But Bobbi Brown family was more supportive and helpful too as well. And Whitney Houston family was just thieves and drug addicts. Most of them that was involved in her career, and she put on the payroll. And then for them to, take Bobbi Kristina even further away from her father and assisting that with, it's allegedly, because we don't know if it's actually true, but to me, I'm going to say it is. I'm going to say I believe it, but it's allegedly. And then on top of that, the way that they treated Bobbi Brown at Whitney Houston funeral, that was really low down, and that was dirty, that was grimy, and that was trifling. That shows you the type of people that they are in death. They are hateful, mean, discouraging maggots, in my opinion, because how can you do that? When Whitney Houston came to Bobbi Brown's mother's funeral and she said, that's my mother-in-law, and Whitney Houston loved Bobbi Brown kids. She loved them from the very beginning, and she wasn't intimidated or scared of them or scared of any of Bobbi Brown's ex-girlfriends and all this other stuff, because she knew who she was, and she knew what she had, and she loved children, and she wanted more children too as well. But for them to do that to the children, and most important, I think Bobbi Kristina would have did a lot better with Bobbi Brown's family, his sister, even his brother, and then Bobbi Kristina have brothers and sisters. She needed to be around young people like that to support her blood. But they made him out to be an animal, and that, Bobbi Brown didn't love Bobbi Kristina because he left too as well. So, Whitney Houston put negative thoughts in Bobbi Kristina's mind too as well. And then it didn't help that her father wasn't around, and he was always getting locked up, and then started a whole brand new family. So that made her feel left out too as well. So, it went down like that. It was really a terrible, terrible story the way it ended. I mean, it's just sad. And so we have that situation going on. Whitney Houston tells Bobbi Brown right after they're arguing over the reality TV show that, I should have listened to my family. I should have listened to my mother. I should have listened to Robin. I should have listened to everybody not to marry you, not to be with you, not to do this, not to do that. And then Bobbi Brown said, yeah, American princess with a thug, what a grimy guy. So it went down from there. It was just, once they separated, it went really bad for Whitney Houston. And then that part of the story, he couldn't really answer or tell because he wasn't there, and Bobbi Kristina wasn't there to tell that side what was going on with Bobbi Kristina. What did Whitney Houston say to Bobbi Kristina? How did Nick Gordon get in the situation? How did he get in the picture? And how was Whitney Houston still heavily on drugs? Like a lot of that part is absent. And a lot of the part of how, Bobbi Kristina felt towards her father at the time. And did they have any conversation? Made it seem like they never had any conversations. And then we get to, Bobbi Brown finally and Whitney Houston finally just separating. Whitney Houston moving out of the house and taking Bobbi Kristina with her. And him looking all over for Bobbi Kristina, trying to find Whitney. And putting Tommy on the case too as well. And then on top of that, Bobbi finally meets up with Whitney at a restaurant. Whitney's nasty and cold. She's talking about, are you hungry? You want to eat? I'll pay for it. And he was like, I just want to see my daughter. Just all types of security around. Bobbi Kristina, she comes out and she wants to smoke a cigarette, and it's okay with Whitney. She's not going to school. She's like becoming a full-fledged adult, and it seems like she's deterred towards her father. And she don't want to really listen to what he got to say, but she kind of feels like he does love her, but he's been absentee. And she's going to go with what she knows, and that's her mother being there. So It was like damage. And Bobby Brown was like, you can talk to my mom, you can talk to my sister that help you with Bobby Kristina if I can't, or you don't want me to go to school because she needs the education, she needs to be in school, because we know Bobby Brown and all his kids are in school and everything, you know. So, and Bobby Kristina is just out here chilling like an adult, no school, smoking cigarettes, hanging with her mother. And now you got Nick Gordon coming in and being like the father, the brother. And actually, Nick Gordon saying that, Whitney Houston wanted him to marry, Bobby Kristina and all that other stuff. And none of that is actually put out there in the movie, too, as well. And then we get to, Bobby Kristina. Before then, we get to Bobby performing, meeting up with Alicia again. She becoming his manager. She letting Tommy know that she's going to be his new manager, and she's managing him, but she's attracted to him the whole time, and she wants to be with him and all this other stuff. And they end up getting together. She ends up being with him. Bobby Brown puts her through some bullshit. He getting drunk, taking her car, acting up, doing all types of shit or whatever. But they didn't say that he cheated on her. And we know he cheated on his wife. That's just Bobby Brown. But now he's a different man. He's different. He's been through a lot. He has lost a lot. And then on top of that, just Bobby Brown losing his mom, losing his father too as well. And then after that, losing Whitney Houston, and then losing his daughter. I don't even know how that man is still moving and kicking. And like I said, he got like 9 lives. All the drugs and everything that he did, driving drunk, driving intoxicated. They didn't even show the part where, I believe Bobby Brown was held hostage too as well, because they owed the drug dealers money and stuff like that. And Whitney Houston paid for the ransom or something like that. I remember that happening. So it's just like there was a lot going on. And we all know, like, the nannies and the housekeepers raised Bobbi Kristina because her parents was too, high. And the image been portrayed for so long that Bobby Brown was the blame and the target. And that was Whitney Houston family doing that too as well. Blame him, knowing where they came from, what they were doing. So it was just really just really just disheartening. You just see what happens. And it's just real crazy. But anyways, moving on to that. I mean, the second part of the show is just really sad and hurtful, because you just know what's coming. And with Bobbi Kristina, after Whitney Houston passing away and Bobby Brown couldn't find Bobbi Kristina, he was looking for her. He had his brother on it. She ended up escaping from Tommy's, vision and, his care. They're looking for her. I guess she went home to Pat Houston. She went home to her family, and they had Bobbi Kristina, and that was it. Next thing you know, before then, Bobbi Kristina and Bobby Brown made amends, and she wanted to do music. She wanted to be around, Bobby Brown and help her record. And she was talking about how Whitney Houston helped her with music. And also in the movie, you saw where Bobbi Kristina was really friends, and she got along with her brothers and sisters, and they had a really good time after the grandmother's funeral. And she knew her grandmother had the best baked macaroni and cheese, made the best baked macaroni and cheese. Then we also got a glimpse to see Bobby Brown cooking, and we know he got it from his mama. And then having his cooking, shows and cooking recipes and book recipes and things like that was actually great. But Bobby Brown lucked up and got Alicia, where she demanded for him to be clean. She demanded for him to get back to work. She demanded all this other stuff. And then Bobby Brown going back on tour with New Edition and finding out Whitney Houston has passed was just real sad. It's just like, how can one person endure so much loss? And so Bobbi Kristina in comas for months. Bobby Brown asking who's this kid, Nick Gordon. He had no idea who Nick Gordon was, but he was there for Whitney Houston's death, and he was there for Bobby Brown's daughter's death, and nothing happening to him, not going to jail. But then a legal civil lawsuit filed against him, and and he lost, so now he owes money. And it doesn't really say clearly where Bobbi Kristina $20 million or $80 million is at, so that's just the situation going on. I didn't know if Bobbi Kristina had a will or anything, or if she had somebody as her guardian. guardian. And then on top of that, you know, Bobbi Kristina been in the hospital, and Whitney Houston's family trying to call shots, not even calling Bobby Brown, acting like he don't exist. But at least at the end, he had, you know, the rights of his daughter, you know, and made sure, you know, she had the best care and was not in pain, and gave her a funeral, and may she rest in peace. Peace. I'm out. One love.